Hi everyone, this is Dayu from EcommOps. Today I'm going to talk about how to manage your customers during the current pandemic. How do you continue to sell during this time if you run an e-commerce store despite all the delays, despite all the fears? How do you reduce headaches? How do you minimize chargebacks and refunds from your customers? And generally speaking, just maintain a better customer experience and maintain your brand quality during this time. So what we're talk about today is why you should continue to run your e-commerce business even during the pandemic. We're going to talk about how the current pandemic is actually impacting your customers on a high level at least. We're going to talk about some general principles for good management of customers and managing customer expectations that really kind of apply anytime, but really especially relevant right now. And then finally, we'll put it all together in a simple framework for how to actually implement all of this into your store. Now you might be asking, why am I talking about this? I'm an agent, right? So I do run a China fulfillment business, EcommOps. However, generally speaking, I have a lot of experience along the entire operations chain. I had jobs where I dealt with customer service before, and generally speaking, we have a lot of clients that are doing very well right now, despite the delays, despite the fears, because they are following a lot of these same principles in terms of managing their customers. So trust me when I say that people are succeeding. My own clients are succeeding during these times, and they are following, maybe not exactly all of it, maybe not exactly the exact same that we lay out here, but they're following a lot of the principles laid out later to succeed with their businesses, and not only succeed, but some of them are really crushing it right now. All right, so why should you continue to run your e-commerce business right now? I'm assuming you didn't have a choice, because I know that some of you watching this is probably your livelihood, so you really have no choice. But even if you do have a choice, I still think that right now is a very good opportunity to continue to run your business. There's a lot of opportunities out there, and you can still do very, very well. Most of you out there are going to be in an area that's affected by the coronavirus pandemic. And you know this very well. Physical retail is closed everywhere. They're either closed or highly restricted. Malls are closed, stores are closed, but people still need to shop. People, generally speaking, don't only need groceries. They don't only need toilet paper. They buy other things still. They have other needs. And people need to get it somehow. People are probably going to start looking online more and more for the products that they need. And as the worst of the pandemic passes, as the worst of the shock passes, consumers are going to shop more, particularly online. Now, I'm not saying that the peak has passed. I think that the worst might be still to come. However, the initial shock, the initial fear is starting to stabilize a bit more, and people are already starting to shop more. They're starting to get bored. They're stuck at home. They have needs. They would just want more stuff that supplements their life because they're not used to being at home all the time. And the reason why I say this is also because we saw the exact same thing in China. So I wasn't there exactly, but I had obviously a lot of coworkers and friends and family out there. And what happened was that after the initial shock, the first 1 week, 2 weeks, when everything was just on pause, everything started to stabilize a bit more, but people still had to stay home. And actually, even now, people still rather stay home because of the fear of it spreading even more. So e-commerce at that time just boomed after a while because people were just buying more online. Shops were closed, and a lot of people were buying a lot of things online. And by the way, this is not just anecdotal. This is not just theory. This is not just projections. It's actually happening. So first of all, a lot of experts do believe that the fears and the situation from the pandemic is going to actually be a boom or a boost to e-commerce in 2020. And there's actually data showing that it has already started happening even in March. It's April right now, by the way, even in March. So on the right, there's a great infographic. It's not complete. I'm going to share the link to the source down in the description. There's a great infographic that shows the top 100 growing e-commerce categories, and also it's cut off, but also the top 100 decreasing e-commerce categories in March from last year. So in certain categories, there is a huge boom right now. Indoors fitness, work at home, health and beauty. there are a lot of things that are selling extremely well right now. Now, obviously, there's going to be things that are not going to be selling quite as well. If you're selling travel products, you're suffering. If you're selling Easter products, you're suffering. Outdoors products, you're probably suffering as well. But that doesn't mean that e-commerce is suffering right now. In fact, e-commerce as a whole is really staying strong. It's just the categories have changed. Now, a lot of times, I do have to talk to some of my clients sometimes who are struggling with a certain product because it's not the perfect product for this period. Travel products, for example, if you're selling travel products, if that's your niche, if that's something that you're dedicated to, you're not going to do well. You're not going to sell travel products well right now. And I would actually ask them, and I ask you as well, right? If you are in a niche that is not doing right now, what are you? Are you a travel product salesman, or are you an e-commerce entrepreneur? And I think that you want to be, and hopefully you call yourself an e-commerce entrepreneur. Just because you made a lot of money before in travel products or whatever it might be, just because you think that that is your niche, whatever it might be that's not doing well, that's not who you are. You're not a salesman for a type of product. You want to be an entrepreneur. So if you want to succeed in these times, first of all, you can succeed, you can keep selling, but you might just have to rethink the categories, the products, the niche that you're actually focusing on, following the trends on what people actually need during this period. All right, so let's talk about the current impact on your customers from the pandemic. Now, I'm going to go super high level here because I have a lot more detail in my last video from last week on the delays and cost increases caused by the coronavirus. So make sure to check that out. I'll link that in my description. And if you want more details, by the way, join our Facebook group, EcommOps Facebook group, where I post more regular updates on delays, cost increases, and hopefully soon I'm going to talk about how everything is starting to get better slowly. So follow us there, please. All right, so delays are everywhere. Whether you do China fulfillment, US fulfillment, fulfill from your house, it doesn't matter. Delays are everywhere. There's freight delays going from China. There are delays getting off the plane. There's delays in customs. There's delays in USPS. Some USPS offices are effectively closed because they're running at 50%, 25% capacity. Same thing around the world. There's just delays everywhere. The entire logistics chain is delayed. And again, I'm not going to talk about the details of the delays because I have it in my past video, and it really depends on what you're actually using for shipping. But I would just say that whatever you're using, add at least some days up to, 5 days, 10 days to your expectations and the expectations you're setting with your customers as well. And look, customers are going to fear infection from packages. That's just a normal human reaction. It may not be totally rational because it's been proven not to be true, but there is probably a fear that you want to assuage from your customers, at least before they purchase, so they can actually make that purchase, and obviously after they purchase, so that they won't cancel that order when they see it's coming from China, or even they just all of a sudden fear getting a package, even from the US with the virus on it. All right, so let's talk about the general principles of dealing with customers. And by the way, this is not just relevant to this time. It's actually relevant to all times, but obviously particularly important right now. And again, these are some of the principles that I see a lot of my own clients using and succeeding with. Again, they don't always use it the same way, but I'm just going to tell you everything that I see that they do on a high level, at least, that helps them succeed in this period. Now, so obviously I can't show you examples of what they do from our client stores, but I'm going to use Amazon as an example. I do actually think that Amazon did a pretty good job in adhering to these principles that I'll talk about next. So the first principle is set expectations up front. Look, even Amazon Prime is delayed. I live in the US. I love Amazon Prime. I use it for everything because everything is like 2 days usually. But even Amazon Prime is delayed. It's delayed from, now it takes up from 6 days to up to 20 plus days. So these are two examples actually. I took these screenshots on April 8th, and they're both saying they'll deliver by April 30th by Amazon Prime. That's normally 2-day shipping. But you know what? It's fine. You know what? I would buy these if I needed it, actually. If I needed a garbage, if I needed that trash can, I would buy it and just expect it in 20 days. Now, one thing that's very important to understand is that customers don't get angry because of the situation. They don't just get angry because of longer shipping. They get angry if they think that you misled them. If you know that your shipping is not going to be 5 days or 10 days, whatever your normal shipping is, if you know it's going to be 10, 15, 20 days, don't tell your customers that's going to get there in 5 days. All right. Now, sometimes people ask me, well, I don't want to say that my product gets here in 20 days. It's going to kill my conversion. It's going to lose sales. I mean, I don't know what to say to you, right? Because if you expect that there will be longer delays, you're in for a world of trouble if you tell your customer it's gonna be 5-7 days, whenever it might be, and it arrives in double that time. You're gonna get more chargebacks, more refunds. Trust me when I say this, it's better to lose a sale once in a while than deal with the headaches, deal with the costs of your customers thinking that you completely misled them in terms of the delivery times. Second principle is keep your customers in the loop. My wife actually ordered this, I believe it's a wok from Amazon. It was supposed to be Prime, it was supposed to be 2-day shipping, but they told my wife it's going to arrive on the 24th, right? So, okay, she's not angry. She already knew it was going to be 25. It hasn't shipped in 5 days, but we also know, I mean, this is something that Amazon's pretty good at. We also know when it's going to be shipped, when it's going to be out for delivery, and when it's going to arrive. Okay, so this is something that obviously you can't do exactly what Amazon is doing here, but keep your customers in the loop along the way, especially if you have some delays in fulfillment in the middle. But you know what? Delays in fulfillment are fine. Look, even in this case, this was supposed to be Amazon Prime. It was supposed to come in 2 days, but Amazon upfront told us it was going to come April 24th, and it hasn't even shipped out, and it's been 5 days. But that's okay because we understood that was a situation. So even if you're fully from China, even if your Asian is slow, it is understandable as long as you set the expectation and keep your customers in the loop. And one thing to remember here is that, look, customers don't charge back. They don't get angry. They don't provide negative feedback just because it delays. Most of the time they do it when they have no idea what's going on. When they purchase something, they don't get a notification, or maybe they get one email and then nothing happens in 2 weeks. They don't hear anything from you. They don't get angry just because of longer shipping times, especially in situations like this. They get angry because they bought something and nothing happened and they just think that you scammed them. The third principle is clearly explain a reason for any longer than expected delays. Explain it up front. I think Amazon did this very, very well. On the front page, the very top of the front page, they tell you exactly what the delays are due to. They're giving priority to medical supplies, basic essentials, and anything else, which is actually most other things, you're going to experience delays. So not only do they tell you about delays, not only do they set the expectations, but they tell you why. They explain to you why. I mean, right now it might be obvious, and again, this is something that you should just keep in mind for other periods as well. If there is a delay, if there's a logical explanation for it, just go ahead and explain it to your customers. Customers are not all unreasonable. Now, to be fair, there are some very unreasonable ones, but customers aren't all unreasonable. They are going to understand logic, especially in a situation like this. So don't think that your customers are dumb. Not all of them are dumb. They're going to understand. If you set expectations with them, explain exactly why it is a pandemic going on, they're going to understand that. Finally, the fourth principle is just, look, customers have fears right now. It just is the situation. Address it directly. Don't hide from it. And I think Amazon does this pretty well. There's a link from FAQ directly from their page. Is it safe to receive orders? They're pretty smart actually because they're not making a stance. They actually take you to a link to the WHO, which is obviously a very legit organization, who then tells you that it is proven to be safe to receive packages in the mail in this period. And I also really like what they do in number 7. I mean, this is not something that you obviously necessarily need to do or relevant to you, but how are they keeping customers and employees safe? So maybe if this makes sense for you, maybe this is something that you can put on your website as well. Maybe there's some disinfectant process your agent is doing, whatever it might be. The reason why I do this is because most of the time fears are not necessarily because of the situation itself, but it's more just because of lack of information. Now, obviously, if the facts are that viruses are spreading by packages, well, we probably shouldn't be sending packages anyways. But especially in this period, or any other fears your customers have, a lot of it is not having the right information, correct information that they trust. So it is a great idea to directly respond to that fear, and ideally respond with something, with an article, with something like a link to WHO, something that is actually very, very highly regarded and highly respected as a source of truth. And that is going to help a lot in assuaging your customers' fears. All right, and guys, I really just have to repeat this and say this very loudly. There is a global pandemic raging right now. There is something happening right now that really hasn't happened probably in our generation or in our lifetime. The last time something like this was the Spanish flu, or maybe a world war, for example. This is something that is affecting the entire world right now. Everyone is affected. Everything is disrupted. People understand. Your customers are going to understand. Don't try to hide it. I mean, you can't hide it, but sometimes I see people trying to pretend that everything is all right, being fearful that their customers will cancel their orders if they said there's a delay, being fearful of extending shipping times. Everyone's going to understand. People are going to continue to buy stuff from e-commerce stores. Our clients are selling very well, and they are extending their shipping delivery dates. They're messaging that there will be delays, and customers still buy. Again, this is a pandemic right now around the world. Every single person understands. All right, so let's talk about how to actually implement these principles into your store. Now, I am not a good writer, and I'm not going to take my customers' templates from them. So these are not templates. These are not written out for you, but I'm going to provide a general framework and hope it's enough to use these bullets as inspiration for you to create your own, for your own customer service flow inside your own store. So I'm going to break it down into 3 areas: before purchase, prior to fulfillment, and after fulfillment, kind of like in this flow, and talk about some bullets and how you should think about messaging to your customers. So first, before purchase, add to your product and shipping pages very, very clearly realistic estimates of current shipping times. Realistic is the key here. I don't care if you're getting 2 to 5 day delivery before, or 5 to 8 day delivery before. It doesn't matter right now. That was before. You have to figure out what more realistic delivery expectations are for whatever service you're using. If you don't know exactly, ask your agent. Again, I do have a more detailed video on delays from last week, so check that out in the link in the description, and follow my group as well for some delays for some couriers. But again, every courier, every agent is very different, so make sure you communicate with your agent as well. Now, on top of the estimated shipping time, just tell your customers to potentially expect additional delays due to the coronavirus situation, due to COVID-19. The reason why you need to do this is because the situation is always changing. It might honestly get worse before it gets better. A package that you sent out 10 days ago that arrived today to your customer, okay, you think, oh, now my shipping speed is 10 days. However, maybe a package you sent out right now is going to be delayed 15 days because the situation got worse. So it's impossible to predict the future, but give yourself some room. Just say that this is our estimated delivery time, but due to COVID-19, there might be additional unexpected delays. People are going to get it. And assure your customers somewhere that viruses can't spread on packages. It may not be your product page, it may not be your home page, but somewhere, your shipping page, FAQs, whatever it might be on the bottom of your product page. I think that is pretty important. I think there's still people out there who are still a little bit afraid about packages spreading it, but it's really been proven over and over again that it's not a risk. And this is optional, but if you are using Shopify, you might consider customizing your delivery times per zone. And that's because certain zones, certain countries are going to see higher than normal delays. If you're in the US, for example, New York has really long delays because that's where the outbreak epicenter is. If you're shipping globally, Canada has probably some of the longest delays right now because of freight constraints. Australia has pretty long delays. For more update delays, follow our group and I'll keep you guys updated there. But if it does make sense for you, you might actually want to customize your shipping expectations per country or per zone. All right, next step is prior to fulfillment. You want to send at least one email. Most of you might be doing this already, your automated email after confirmation, but you want to add a little bit more detail there due to the situation. You want to remind them that, okay, your team is working hard to fulfill their orders or process their orders, but there might be some delays or more delays or a lot of delays, I don't know, during COVID-19, depending on your situation. Now, it really kind of depends on how you're fulfilling these, right? If you're fulfilling yourself, and you're sending out next day, maybe it doesn't matter. If you use a fulfillment center, sending out 24 hours, maybe it doesn't matter. But I know a lot of you are probably selling a lot of products that are backlogged right now, and it might be sending out in 1 or 2 weeks. So this is where you want to give yourself some room and just say there are additional delays in processing, but we'll provide you with your tracking number as soon as possible. If possible, give them an estimated time that it will ship out. If you know it's going to ship out in 3 days or 5 days, just tell them that. There's no real reason to hide that. Your customers would prefer to know what's going on rather than you hoping that they're not going to think about it, or you're being afraid that if you say that it's going to ship out in 5 days, you're going to cancel that order. And this is optional here. We see some clients do it, some people don't. You might want to reemphasize that the virus can't be spread by viruses. There's obviously a benefit to that to really reinforce that idea, but potentially there's a negative where it might also seem like you're trying to convince the customer something they don't believe in. But anyways, this can go either ways. We've seen clients do one or the other. I think that both are fine. Now, if you are actually working with an agent or a supplier and you know that there's delays, you know it's going to be 1 or 2 weeks out before they ship, you probably want to plan for at least one interim email, just updating your customers on the situation. Now, I don't know what your situation exactly is, but just explain to them because of the current pandemic, things are slow to get out, things are backlogged. Keep them updated. Don't just leave your customers hanging for a week or 2 weeks because that's how you're going to get chargebacks. Again, customers are not usually super angry just because of delays, but they do get really angry if they think that you just disappeared or you just scammed them where nothing is happening. All right, so third step is after fulfillment. So first of all, send out tracking numbers as soon as possible. Now, how we work is that we only send out tracking numbers after a package has actually been sent. I think that's the most honest way to do things. However, there's a little bit of a unique time. If you have an agent and you know that agent or that fulfillment center is going to take 3-5 days to ship out, and your customers are going crazy, you might want to consider asking your agent to maybe send your tracking numbers 2 or 3 days before it's shipped out so that your customers get something and then they wait for it. Now, I would advise that you don't do this too aggressively because customers also really dislike getting tracking numbers that are just empty for a week or 2 weeks. So don't do it like a week or 2 weeks out. Find your balance. I normally don't suggest this, but again, if you have a lot of unhappy customers that see nothing is happening, maybe just providing them with tracking numbers is something that's going to calm them down at least. With your tracking numbers, send out more details than you usually do. Explain to them that due to COVID-19, there might be additional logistics supply chain disruptions that might cause delays. Might be delays with ESPS or whatever. I mean, just tell them that because, well, first of all, it's true. Explain that there will be delays, have them set the expectations, and explain why. It's because of COVID-19, it's because local post offices are understaffed, it's because local processing centers are understaffed. I mean, all these are actually reasons. You don't have to tell your customers all of them, but explain to them there might be delays and explain to them exactly why it's happening. And actually, this last bullet here is pretty important now because there are certain regions where their post offices are temporarily stopped or paused or just not delivering for a couple days or even up to a week because they're severely understaffed. One thing that you might want to remind your customers, whether it's in this email or maybe later on if you see that their packages are stuck, is that there might be packages that are currently held by the local USPS office, local DHL office, whatever, and they might be trying to reach the customers, but your customers are not used to maybe calling back the post offices. So just remind them that if this does happen, for them to contact their local post offices, either have the packages get held by the post office so it's not sent back to you after a couple days, or 10 days rather, because I actually know that USPS, for example, in this period, if you call them and the package is stuck with USPS, you can tell them to hold it for 30 days as opposed to the standard 10 days. Or tell them to reschedule delivery. This just happens sometimes during the situation because post offices are overloaded. And if you communicate this with your customers, at the very least, the responsibility is on them. Not the full responsibility, but at the very least, it becomes easier to have these kind of conversations because you did tell them that this is a risk and that they might be responsible for either picking it up themselves or rescheduling to a later delivery date. All right, so that is the framework. Now, sorry that I couldn't lay this out for you, but hopefully this is helpful enough to provide a general guideline of how you should think about these things. Again, the reason why I think that this really works is because I see our clients doing these. I see our successful clients doing these. They might not be doing everything, but these are principles, and this framework was really pulled from the experiences that we see from our clients, some of the recommendations that we provide them, and is what is allowing them to continue to succeed even in this very trying situation. All right, everyone. So I know that stuff about the coronavirus, what to do during the coronavirus, is not the most fun or really interesting, but I do realize that this is the stuff that you guys do need right now. And I do want to reemphasize again that you can run your e-commerce business right now, but you have to do it differently. You have to sell different products, and more importantly, you have to manage your customer expectations differently. These are not normal times, but customers also get it, but you need to get it too. You need to treat your customers differently, and you need to manage and communicate with your customers differently as well. All right, guys, if you like this video, would really appreciate it if you hit like. That really helps our channel. Subscribe to our channel, hit the bell button for notifications for future content. I will be producing more content in the future on more operations and logistics topics. Please join our Facebook group as well, link below. That's where I always provide the most up-to-date information on operations and logistics and just more interim content there. And finally, we do run our own China fulfillment service. I have to say we have huge demand right now, so there is a bit of a wait list, and we're very selective with our clients. But if you do have more than 50 orders per day and you're really serious about scaling it big, reach out to us, check out our website below, and if you're a good fit, we'd love to talk to you more. Good luck during this trying period. Again, this is Dayu from EcommOps. See you guys later.